Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking about letting your players speak to your game, or in other words, voice interfaces for gaming. First, I thought I'd give you a little bit of background about myself. I'm a software consultant based in the southwest of the UK, and I started my career as a Python developer, working on software projects. That evolved into a technical project management role, both on the software side and on the delivery side. And over this time, I've also managed a handful of products, software products, internal and a couple of external. And I started out overall working on things like web content management systems, intranets, extranets, community portals. And this then shifted focus to mobile apps and what I call real-world mobile apps, those that connect people to, say, a construction site or a corporate event, that kind of thing. And more recently, my focus has shifted again to voice interfaces and conversational AI. And this is what I'm here to talk to you about today. And I should also mention that I am a fan of adventure games. I grew up with many of the point and click classics, and I've since enjoyed many of the console games, PC games, and this is kind of the genre and the space that I'm familiar with. So what am I going to cover in this talk? Well, I'll start off looking at voice technology. What is it and why I think it's important for gaming. Then I'll have a little bit of a look about the technology itself. What are the building blocks, the components that make up voice interaction? And I'll talk about my journey prototyping an audio adventure game, bringing these components together into an experience. I'll touch on a few examples of other voice games out there to give you an idea of what's currently going on. And I'll cover some of the potential use cases for this technology in the gaming sector. And finally, I'll talk about what's next for me, where I'm going, where you can go to learn more about this and the future. Okay, so what do I mean by voice technology? Well, I see this as two areas. One is the ability for computers to understand what we say and speak. And I kind of give the example of speech recognition here. And the other is the ability for computers to respond to us with artificial speech that we can understand. So my example here is AI generated voices. And the most popular applications of these at the moment are things like Siri, Alexa, and Google virtual assistants. And I like to think of this as voice as a human-computer interface. So why should we consider voice? Well, this is a technology that's moving fast, driven by advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and in hardware. And it's making it possible to interact with games and communicate with players in new ways. Voice is very accessible and natural. It's easy for us to convey what we want by speaking it. It's also independent of hands-on controllers, and it doesn't require eyes on the screen all the time. And I think it has the potential to bring new players to games, to help players get more out of games, and to create deeper engagement in games with our players. So what's driving the voice industry at the moment? Well, definitely the rapid adoption of smart speakers over recent years. According to some research from voicebot.ai, over 38% of UK adults owned a smart speaker at the start of this year. 38%. Big tech is pushing smart speaker technology and offering it to everyone at a very low price. Smart speakers provide access, offer a lot of content already. They're novel and they offer virtual assistants for everyone. A very attractive package. This wouldn't be possible without the advancements in AI and machine learning. As more data is amassed, more examples of people speaking, as models improve, better understanding of how we interpret speech or generate speech, the accuracy and the quality of what we can achieve increases. And alongside that, there's also an increase in developer tools and frameworks that make it possible for more people to use these technologies. Taking that further, there's also an increase in no-code content creation tools, allowing a wide audience of content creators to at least start out creating voice and audio experiences. And finally, we're seeing an innovation in the application of this technology. For example, searching an online store with your voice is actually really quite a nice experience. You can be clear on, you can comment on what you can see on the screen, you can be clear about what you want to find. And you don't have to keep tapping on a little screen. So let's talk a little bit about the technology. Let's start out with natural language understanding. This is a branch of artificial intelligence and machine learning focused on translating our analog speech into digital form that can then be processed by a computer. And as part of this, the algorithms look to extract the intent of what we're saying and the things that we make reference to when we're speaking, and call these entities. And perhaps even go further to understand our sentiment and the emotion in our voice when we're speaking. There are some popular APIs out there to do this, from Google, from IBM, from Facebook, and others. The next building block is natural language generation, for example, AI voices. And these algorithms allow us to programmatically create synthetic character dialogue. And we can even train these voices to match existing human voices if we want. And it's possible to script changes in volume, rate, pitch, and emphasis in the spoken dialogue in the audio that we generate with the computer. And again, there are APIs out there to do this, things like Replica, Resemble, Google again. And the final building block is conversational AI. For example, chatbots or virtual assistants which users can talk to. And this really brings together both the natural language understanding and the natural language generation to imitate human interactions, human conversation. Doing this by recognizing what you say and translating that into meaning. Conversational AI knows about the user or the player and can take actions on their behalf. And it can provide a helpful response or even a prompt for the next step in the story, in the journey. And at its core are machine learning models trained for a set of anticipated interactions with our software or with our game. So let's just take a reality check on the current state of play of these technologies. To use these right now, you're likely to depend on big tech and or cloud APIs, although there are other options becoming available. Conversational AI definitely has its limits. I wouldn't say it's believable as a human substitute yet, but it does help the user and it can be engaging if it's designed and built in the right way. These are still relatively new technologies, so you need to be prepared to get your hands dirty if you want to use them. And there are some privacy concerns which need addressing around how data is captured, stored, what it's used for. So just bear these things in mind through the rest of the talk. So what am I doing? Well, I'm trying to be creative with voice and conversational AI. And I'm doing this by prototyping an adventure game around a conversation with the lead character in the game. I'm telling my own story, bringing together characters, a world I've created, objectives and challenges that I have in mind. And initially I'm focusing on audio as the interface. Why am I doing all of this? Well, I'm probably preaching to the converted, but being creative, making and coding is very satisfying. I mentioned that I grew up with adventure games. I feel I have a familiarity with some of the mechanics there. Conversations are often a key part, extracting information, figuring out what to do next, and that exploration is often very guided. I am enjoying following my own story and just getting ideas that I've had for a while out of my head and into something tangible. And it's enjoyable to create something that's individual, has a little bit of uniqueness about it. And I'm using an audio interface, partly because I have limited graphics skills, partly because there are lots of readily available assets, sound effects, etc., to create an immersive experience, but also because audio has plenty of distribution channels. And personally, I'm looking to limit my screen time, not increase it, but enjoy playing this kind of game. So let me set the scene for you. It's about 20 years in the future, the 2040s, and you are Emerson, a restaurant owner in Hammersmith, London. Your eyesight has slowly deteriorated and you avoid the hectic kitchen these days. But those eyes, your eyes, hold unique information that might just change the course of humanity, and you know it. Spaceships are shuttling to and from the moon regularly, and you need to reach an ex-colleague, Jane, who works in the lunar city of Ijaya, before someone else does. But you simply can't attempt that journey yourself. So you're counting on Freddie, your friend's son, and Alvin, a pocket supercomputer, to make it happen. So this is an audio demo. It's all about voice and audio. So if it's comfortable and safe for you to do so, please close your eyes for a brief introduction. You won't miss anything visual, and I'll mention when I've moved on to the next slide. So I want you to imagine that Freddie has just arrived at the departure lounge at a London spaceport. You're going to help him remotely via a secure app on your smartphone. Freddie needs to find some way to get this pocket supercomputer through security, then get a highly sought after ticket to board a spaceflight. And you're the brains here. He's relying on your logical thinking. So he connects with you as he arrives at the spaceport.
Welcome to Spaceport London Heathrow. Please make yourself comfortable in the reception lounge, and one of our hosts will be with you shortly.
Hi, it's Freddie. I made it. I'm here. What a nightmare those last few days were. I best keep my head down and hope no one recognizes me. That didn't say much, but stressed I needed to get his dear Alvin through security undetected. Where should I start?
Hi Freddie, tell me what you can see.
I'm in the waiting area, a small lounge. To my left there are some sofas, and there's a door to a WC in the corner. In front of me there's a check-in desk, with a friendly looking host behind it and a barriered entrance. On my right is a video display that looks like it's playing a showreel for what's to come. Better than the mainstream news, I guess. There's also a well-stocked fridge.
Okay, let's go check out that fridge.
The fridge is jam-packed with bottles of original Coca-Cola. My guess is there'll be a Coke badge on the side of the spaceship too.
If you're thirsty, there's no harm in grabbing a drink, I suppose.
Not quite the taste of a new generation, but still good.
Can you see anything of use here?
It's a fridge full of ice-cold bottles of Coke, with a metal bottle opener resting on top.
Okay, grab that bottle opener then.
Yoink, that may come in handy.
What more can you tell me about Alvin?
Apparently he's a powerful computer, looks a bit like a small dumbbell from the gym.
Can you open Alvin or turn him on?
I can't see any obvious way to open him or turn it on. If you don't know, I think we're gonna need some help.
Hopefully that gives you some idea where I'm going with this. If you did close your eyes, you might like to reopen them now. So I'd like to talk to you about designing a game like this, and in particular touch on conversation-driven development. And this is an iterative process which focuses on testing early and continually improving what you're building. And at its core, the principles are: let your player speak to your game, for example, using voice. Let them communicate in their own words what they need help with, what they want to achieve, and then use these insights to develop and improve your in-game AI or assistant. And this is a principle that's spearheaded by a company called RASA for Conversational AI. And if you'd like to learn more about it, please do check out their website. So I'd like to summarize how I'm using conversation-driven development for Spaceport Alpha. I start off with an external playtest of my current prototype. The player speaks to the game, interacts with it, explores, pushes it to its limits. After that, I can review these conversations and annotate them. What worked well? What didn't work at all? What's in the middle? This helps me prioritize and understand what to work on next. For example, I might consider where the player friction is. How can I alleviate that and enhance their experience? I'll often then revise the game engine, the interactions in the game, and perhaps even the speech in the game, the AI-generated speech, to clarify, explain better, guide the player better. I'll then do an internal playtest and a sort of QA of the next iteration of the game. How's it holding together? Does it fit the bigger picture, the bigger story? Is it going in the right direction? And if I'm happy, I can then deploy that and repeat the process. And I'll often ask the previous playtester to try it again, but also ask a new playtester to try it for the first time. And this all helps with the validation and the iterative improvement of the experience. I'd just like to take another reality check here, which is there aren't many examples of this out there that we can reuse in our own games. So in truth, we have to repeatedly train our own machine learning models to create this kind of experience. And I actually gave a separate talk on conversation-driven development. If that's of interest, please do check it out. So I'd like to just summarize a handful of other examples of using voice technology in gaming that might be of interest. True or False from Voice Arcade is an award-winning quiz game with a multiplayer mode. You interact with this on your smart speaker. It leads you through questions, you give answers, and it provides feedback. You compete, you have a profile, a score history, etc. Escape from 63rd and Wallace from Wonderword is a horror-themed, audio-based interactive story with puzzles. So you listen to the narrative of the story, and at points you make decisions. You have to solve puzzles by making choices and answering questions with your voice in order to progress through the story. Warrior's Land from vHeister is a voice-controlled RPG which uses multiple modes of input. So you might speak to the game through a smart speaker. It's a continually running game. So you might dip into it, speak to it with a smart speaker, but then later on you might receive an updated game map or game status through your phone. And you might interact with the game using a browser or through a smart screen. And finally, They Came from Outer Space from Earplay sees you co-produce a sci-fi radio play by making choices with your voice. Let me share some other potential use cases for voice technology in gaming. I'll just recap one of my earlier points, which is voice is independent of hands-on controllers. I think this paves the way for 21st century assist mode, where you could increase players' ability and or reduce game friction, improving the enjoyment and the experience, letting them do more with your game. Voice has the potential for more accessible experiences to supplement control of a game for less able players. And we can achieve more human-like interactions with NPCs using voice processing, voice generation, and conversational AI. So I pose you the question, how could voice technology add value to your next game? So what's next for me? Well, my consultancy work is currently paying the bills, but it's also allowing me to do this. So I'm seeking pre-seed funding to accelerate this R&D, to move faster and go deeper in these various areas. I want to evolve the voice and audio game engine that I have, improve the accuracy and the coverage of the models that we're training, and improve the tooling that allows for the creation of this kind of experience. And in the process, release a demo of Spaceport Alpha that illustrates these technologies coming together. For this, I'm going to need to grow the team, in particular on the business and commercial side, increase our online presence, and do some work on Unity integration for the future. And if you are interested in helping drive this forwards, then please do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. So how can you learn more about this and try it for yourself if you're interested? Well, please do sign up for updates and to playtest Spaceport Alpha at aag.dev. IBM have a great overview of natural language processing, which will go into the technology side a little bit more. As I mentioned, I gave a talk focused on conversation-driven development and my processes there, if that's of further interest. You could even have a go at building your own AI assistant with the RASA open source framework. They've got a great video series on that. There's a Twitch channel run by Katie who plays many different voice games, and I would encourage you to check out this particular episode, which is a summary from the last season. You'll get a real flavour for what's going on there. And of course, do try out some voice games yourself. So, dziękuję, thank you. Please do connect with me on Twitter if you're interested in this space, and do reach out if you'd like to discuss further. A quick thanks to my contributors and playtesters so far, and to the two Matts for helping me learn and share. And thanks to Digital Dragons for having me here, and to you for joining me.